I think this is going to be an interesting panel. We have, this technology panel that is, we have world-leading experts on this technology panel. I would like to call out Annie Sain. Annie Sain is ex-Apple, ex-Intel, ex-Qualcomm, whatever, and she has an interesting point of view on AI technology. Raj Nair. Raj Nair came to us all the way from India. And I think he's going to give us insights into how India is adopting AI. And then I have Rajesh Gupta, who's going to join us from Zoom. Rajesh Gupta is interim dean of computer science and informational technology in UCSD. He's also a Qualcomm chair, and he's been leading a lot of efforts on AI. He's the founder of the Data Science Institute at UCSD, and I've known him for more than 2 decades. So Rajesh, let's see, can he join via Zoom? So without any further ado, maybe while Rajesh is joining, how about Annie, you start?
By the way, I'm the timekeeper. Okay. I have 1 hour, Pankaj. Hi, I'm Annie. Oh, sit? Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
sit.
Okay, here. Hello, I'm Annie Sen. I have been a firmware hardware engineer managing product and firmware teams at Apple, Intel, and Qualcomm. And I have an interesting topic to talk about today. Do you want me to talk about?
Yeah,
okay.
please.
So I wanted to talk about something that may be on many people's minds. What happened to Apple Intelligence? Why is our iPhones not as intelligent as we were promised? So it kind of digresses into on-device and cloud AI for device OEM. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So what happened? Why is, in WWDC this year, we were promised AI intelligence, but all they had was a concept video. There was nothing more. Is it because Tim Cook was not signing body parts like Jensen did? Is that what happened? I mean, the last 5 years stock price shows 1,000% gain for NVIDIA versus, 200% for Apple. Nothing wrong with that, but let's digress. What really happened here? Apple is a company whose capital structure is based, or capital allocation is based on buybacks. It does 90 billion buybacks a year. That's what it's focused on. And when 2022, where ChatGPT came about, I think Apple did not understand the importance of how AI would affect their product lines. So they did not take enough of their buyback budget and put it into R&D. That is I think one of the reasons. Another reason, being in Apple, I found out is I call it a software optimized company. What it does, extremely good silicon, writes great software to run on it, but it wants to do it organically. It doesn't like third-party vendors. So I don't know if anybody remembers 2008 Bumpgate, where there was thermal issues with NVIDIA chips on Apple laptops. What that made Apple is very fearful of third-party vendors. It said, we want to go alone, and we see it with Apple and Qualcomm. So Apple was thinking, okay, we have this great M2 chip. It has 16-core neural engine, 10 GPUs, 4 CPUs. How about we fuse a bunch of M2s together and make an M2 Ultra? Can we scale and we can run our inference and training on it? Well, there's a huge problem because your LLM suddenly got big. Big means 100 billion parameters and up, and your M2s lost the scaling. Why? Because of SerDes. SerDes is this high-speed bus where NVIDIA said, okay, guess what? We are going to throw in NVLink. We are going to push this 1,000 gigabit per second, and hey, Apple, your M2s just can't keep up. So that's a huge problem where Apple could not move into the data center realm, which would have given it a lot more leverage to get into serving big LLMs. And I'm going to talk about why even big LLMs are important for Apple or not. So scalability was very important. And the other thing it's very important to talk when we talk of AI is a memory wall. What's a memory wall? Every device has a certain amount of memory and the memory bus. Why is it important? Because every time we generate a token, you ask ChatGPT a question, it generates a token. That token runs through 1 billion parameters or 7 billion or 70 billion, whatever your model supports. To do that, the memory has to be close to the processor. It has to be big enough. These are all very cost-sensitive operations that an on-device OEM can't go through. So question is, do we even need to run a 70 billion parameter? No. We can run a small LLM. But this constricts us, in a sense, this memory wall, where we are talking of large memory, large bandwidth, exists on the server side. But on the server side, you're serving multiple customers. On a phone, how many customers do we have on a phone? We have one. It's a bat size of one. So the efficiency and optimization we can get on a server side for the flops, for the memory that we can share among multiple users is not available. So what does it mean is the higher the bat size, the higher the number of users, your inference cost comes down. Inference cost is very critical in designing your chip, right? So really quickly, let's do a little math. Like, what can we run on our phone? What is the biggest size model we can run on a phone? A human reads about 250 to 1,000 words a minute. 1,000 words is a very nice reader, okay, really fast reader, which means we have to generate 8 to 33 tokens per 120 millisecond. Okay, well, if we do the math, that comes about a floating point 16, and there's a lot of numbers here, but a floating point 16 1 gigabyte model. It has its limitations on what use cases it can run, or it can run about a 4 billion int 8 model. So this is what an iPhone can run with, say, a 14 gigabyte memory. And again, its restrictions are on memory and the memory bandwidth. From what I understand, a Snapdragon X can run Llama 3.2 3 billion int 8, which is pretty decent for running a lot of small language models. So the sweet spot of what we can run on device is about 3 to 4 billion parameters. That's kind of a number we are targeting. So what's the future for Apple AI? It's very important. Where are they heading? Well, why do we have the iPhone? What is the most important aspect of an iPhone that we carry, other than the mobility aspect? It's security. If we know our data is secure, our financial data, our health data is secure, that makes us buy another iPhone, really. So what Apple is trying to do is create a digital twin. It wants to have an iOS, and it wants to have your data and your AI also have a digital twin of it on the server. And depending on the application, say if it's a multimodal application, it will run on the server. But if it's something like a health or finance app that has very secure data, it's going to run it on your phone. So what we are going to see is a proliferation of very customized small language models that probably will run on device. And for something much more multimodal visual, it will run on server. So I do think if Apple gets its act right, it's, after all, catering to the consumer. It has pricing power. It has a sticky customer base. If it can make useful apps, it has legs and a long time to go.
Thank you, Annie. Very good perspective. And next, I would like to introduce you to Raj Nair, who's here from India. And he will give us perspective on what he sees from an AI perspective.
Thank you, Naresh, and it's a privilege to be here in the midst of such bright people. I'm not going to tell you anything about what AI is doing in the world, but restricting myself to what's happening in India. There's a hell of a lot happening, much more than you can imagine. This morning, 2 people came up and told me, "You're going to speak on India? You know, we are investors. We'd love to know more where the opportunity is." So I'll plan my talk and put some emphasis on that as well. In India, say I'm a strategy consulting company chairman, and I also have some other companies which do insights, and also have a company which does AI product development, and there's another one which has produced the world's first foldable electric bike, which is a full-size one, not the tiny ones. So it's in none of my companies I look after the top line or bottom line or middle line. I head the innovation groups, and that keeps me excited and interested. And your talk was very, very, very good.
Thank you.
I learned a lot. Thank you. So when I say there's a hell of a lot happening, I'd like to just say why it's happening. There are 5 key trends. There's a tremendous amount of government initiatives, like the India AI strategy, which is getting implemented in a great way, and it's impacting a lot of sectors. There's the Digital India mission, which is changing the infrastructure like never before, and it helps the public sector, which is the government sector, as well as the private sector, to develop a whole lot of applications on that. And so it cuts costs significantly and enables things. That's the most important thing. The second big trend is that there's a massive growth in AI startups. There are about 7,500 as I speak in India. And there's a big qualitative difference between what used to happen 5 years ago and today. 5 years ago or before that, they were quite happy to make a copycat version which will serve the Indian market and hope to get bought out by somebody who wants to get customers in India. Today's youngsters are not happy doing some copycat stuff. They want to develop something new, different, and hope one day they can reach the world market. And as a result of this, there's so much AI application. Even large corporates are acquiring technology from these companies and running their businesses. The third is there's a lot of emphasis today on localizing these models, LLMs, for local languages. You know, India has more than 400 languages and dialects. So it makes a lot of sense if you want to serve 1.4 billion people that you have LLMs adapted to local situations. So that's a lot of things happening. The fourth and very important thing is that most organizations which never bothered about data have suddenly realized that in the world of AI, unless they collect data, organize it properly and formally, they will not get anywhere. So that's changing very rapidly. So more and more companies are getting onto the bandwagon, having organized their data well. And fifth, and what you probably don't know is about, there's a lot of emphasis today on responsible AI practices. I'm not just talking about security and compliance with data privacy, but also algorithmic transparency, which is being legislated, so that the poorest of the poor, the uneducated, don't face unexpected consequences. They're not expected to know what can go wrong. So if the algorithms are transparent, there's less chance of such thing happening. So that is getting legislated. So these 5 key trends are changing the AI landscape significantly. Now, there's a lot of innovation fever. I said it's become so much that it's like the COVID virus spreading all over. Everybody is saying, oh, I'm doing something in AI. Whether they're doing it or not, they like to call it AI. And at the same time, there's some real business applications happening. And AI is being used by conventional companies. You wouldn't expect. Like, I'll give you 2 examples. There's a hair loss company, a hair loss prevention company, which is selling various kinds of oils which are suitable for you if you have a hair loss tendency. Okay? So what have they realized? That their product works only if you use it for 5 months at a stretch. You stop it after 2 months, it's a waste. So they also recognize that if you want to get someone to use your product for 5 months at a stretch and keep praying that it'll work, you need to have a tremendous customer experience creation throughout these 5 months. So 600 out of the 800 people are doing customer experience. And what better application than you can get than for AI? So there's a lot of AI engineers working there in a company which is making hair oils for prevention of hair loss. Okay? That's the way it's happening. Another example I could give you is a skincare diagnostic. Yeah, it's not after you lose, but before you lose. Okay. But there's still hope. There's a skincare diagnostic company I came across the other day, and I'm going to talk about examples and things which you don't get by normal search. You can do Google search and other searches, you will not get these things. So there's a guy who's made it's a B2B model for skincare. He's created a mirror, and the customer sits in front of the mirror and clicks. Immediately a picture is taken. And the blemishes on the skin, if any, are compared with a whole lot of data which has been on which the model has been trained, and it immediately recognizes what needs to be done, and it enables a client company to suggest use this or use that. So at salons, for instance, they are able to say, okay, for you, it's this and this. So no dermatologist required, and that's what it's doing. And it is able to do these things at scale because of AI. Now, sorry? I'll share that later. I'll share. Then there is these two people who I met this morning, and they said, tell me about investments. So the question is, where's the beef? Okay, the best opportunities in every sector are hidden from plain sight. You have to figure out where the opportunity is. If you look at high level, you're going to miss investment opportunities. So whether you're a techie or a tech entrepreneur, whether you're an angel or a VC or a PE fund or an investor in public markets, there is an opportunity for you. Even if you are a consultant or someone who wants to collaborate or wants to advise the company on what they need to change in order to access the US market, or you're able to create a tie-up for them in India, there's an opportunity for you. So there's a lot happening, and there are a lot of more things that people here in this room can do. I'll give you one specific example. I'm an advisor to a non-banking financial services company. It's a big lender for personal loans. Take a minute. I got their permission to mention the name. It's a limited company, so as long as I don't disclose anything which they have not disclosed to the stock exchange, I'm safe, they are safe. Okay? So there's a company called Poonawalla. The Poonawalla family is famous for having created the largest vaccine company in the world. They're outstanding. So Adar Poonawalla bought over a NBFC in Calcutta. And not because he had a lot of money lying around, he has a lot of money lying around, but he felt that using AI, he could transform that company and do something which no other banking company has done in the world. So he pulled out a whole lot of people from HDFC Bank, which is India's leading private sector bank, and a CEO who was a go-getter for innovation and implementation of things, and shook up the whole company. And they went into a tie-up with IIT Bombay's AI team. They got the largest NLP team in the country. So as a result, from 1st of October onwards till now, amazing things have been rolled out at great speed. For instance, they said, okay, we're going to create a human in the loop for customer service. It's already started happening. HR, they're transforming the department. The head of HR says, my job is to make myself not relevant. My job has to go in 3 years' time. So now the time taken from a CV to issuing a letter for job offer has been cut down from 100 to 10. A 90% reduction. I know there are many cases where it's much less, but I'm not supposed to talk about it because it's not been disclosed. Loan evaluation and offer, they get only 3 minutes, and there are hundreds of people eyeballing data of all kinds to see whether they can underwrite that loan or not. So we found that 70 to 80% of the time is spent in just eyeballing the data and not for really processing the information. We said, supposing we were to use AI to get all this data, process it, give it to the person, and then he takes a decision, cost can come down. So just on last Monday, they announced that they've got a 40% reduction in cost and a huge reduction in time. So every department is being changed so that this becomes an AI first information company. So that's a publicly limited company. If you want to invest, you can invest. But there are many, many things happening in healthcare, in agriculture, almost like this, which you won't see apparently. So I'm just saying that the whole world is changing. A country like India with 1.4 billion people is also changing. So it's an opportunity to sell technology, opportunity to invest, all kinds of opportunities. So that's what I'd like to say since some time is running out.
Thank you, Raj. Next, I would like to ask Rajesh Gupta. Rajesh, thank you for doing this. Rajesh just had a surgery. He's doing this remote, but look at him. He looks as if nothing has happened to you. So Rajesh, we would like to get your perspective on AI. What do you see?
Naresh, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I hope you can hear me well. Yeah. And just by the camera and looking at the back of the people, I can see familiar faces, or at least people. And I would have loved to be there, but I have to be grounded for at least a couple of more weeks. So let me just share a few thoughts about the technology or the science behind the AI and where we are going with that as a technology panel. My own qualification to do that is having thought about AI and its implications more than 10 years ago, and guiding the campus into building an institution that perhaps is the largest now in the country in terms of the AI talent we have collected together in San Diego and La Jolla. We have recruited 42 new faculty members in the areas of machine learning AI in last 6 years, and in addition to about 90 in computer science. So it's probably the largest group or among the largest. And so I get to sit with some of the smartest people on the planet in this area, and and think about where the science and technology is going. And they're advancing very rapidly along three axes. One is hardware and architecture. Um, and this is where, for example, we are beginning to discover things and kind of accelerators that are coming up. We have been benchmarking new machines, including Qualcomm's AI machine, as well as AMD's and so on, and finding benchmarks where they are outperforming some of the more expensive alternatives. The math and theory behind machine learning is also advancing pretty rapidly in terms of understanding why some of these optimizations happen so rapidly and what makes them hit roadblocks. And the third is a task specificity, sometimes also known as domain or applications. For example, using machine learning to do particle physics or environmental sciences in these areas. And so the fun part is that our students and the science that is coming out are learning things that are barely a year, 2 year, or maybe 5 years old, unlike the subjects we studied in when we were in college, that were much, much older. But in parallel, and this panel and this whole day is actually evidence of that, the industry is not waiting for the maturity of the technology or perfect solutions to evolve. And in fact, what we are beginning to see are applications that are getting ahead of the technological capabilities simply by pulling things together. You can call them kludges, you can call them jugaad, you can call them system solutions, but they are emerging. Whether you build them in long context or racks or ways in which you overcome the limitations of technology that have not yet been overcome. And this is where the most direct vectors are agentic AI and physical AI. Those are the terms you probably hear much more commercially. But at the end of the day, you ask the question, what is so fundamentally different? And why we call it the internet moment for now in modern times, or even going beyond, I would actually call it new engineering for the next 100 years. And why is that? What is driving that? The way to think about that, I think, is and I'll say it in the context of LLMs because everybody is at least knows what those are, or at least have worked with them. Um, the LLMs are now beginning to do things that sort of ask very very philosophical questions. For example, do machines understand? And you say, what do you mean by that? You take a document, let's say, and if I ask you, you read the document, and then I ask you a question, do you understand it? And if you say yes, then I say, but my next question will be, okay, so can you summarize it for me? Well, the machines do that today. Only 10 years ago, this was considered an unsolvable problem. And so, but today you actually get that done. How we get it done and so on is a different matter altogether. So, what is the notion of learning and how we um, are advancing that? For a very long time, at least in the last 200 years, our way of understanding nature and phenomena was when we say we understood something, we could predict, we could infer, we could generalize. Let me just focus on generalization. Our generalizations were such that we took observations, and based on those observations, we could give you outcomes even when we had no observations for a particular data input. And that we could do that because we could do what is normally known as an inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning allowed us to build models, mostly parametric. For example, you have a Newton's law, and that gives you a sort of a output for a given input, even the inputs that have not been done experimentally. But they need not be parametric. They could even be non-parametric, and that could be a neural network. So that inductive reasoning, you can think of it as giving labels. Labels is the outcomes, for example. So you take the labels, you build a model, and based on that, you predict what the outcome would be. And that allowed us to do inductive reasoning. Now, inductive reasoning was assisted by a mathematics or algebra that we were very familiar with. That was the algebra of numbers. It doesn't matter which engineering you did. Um, your input, your questions were posed in terms of numbers, and your outcome were posed in terms of numbers. And numbers have two very fundamental properties that sort of benefited all of engineering and science. One, between any two numbers, there's another number. And in fact, many of those numbers, infinitely many of those, and that allows us to do inductive reasoning. In other words, even the data you have not seen could be interpolated, let's say, so to use the word. And the other is between any two numbers, that one number is always smaller than the other unless they're the same number. And so the order of the ordering between the symbols or the tokens allowed us to build a whole science of our understanding of nature. And that sort of got upended in last 10 years or so. Satya gave a very good talk about vision and patterns. And initially, what we thought we could use the vision as a means of pattern detection actually became machine's eyes. And we could do now what is known as transductive reasoning. And transductive reasoning is where you learn from labels, but you don't try to create a generalized model for that. And so you directly look at the data sets or subsets of the data and you try to give them labels. And transductive reasoning is allowing us to now deal with numbers and text together. And that sort of has changed the notion of knowledge itself. Every single science textbook or engineering textbook would be awash in numbers. But when you open up, I don't know, an Upanishad or something, you will find text. And you say, well, but that's not quite the knowledge that I'm sort of used to what I'm understanding. But now the new sets of inductive reasoning and transductive reasoning is allowing us to do is to make inferences even going beyond numbers. How we do that and what kind of encoding and so on is a means to an end. And so that directly predicting labels from unlabeled data points without aiming for generalized models is now letting us think about nature itself. And people are not talking about maybe a new physics will emerge, maybe new understanding of nature will emerge, definitely a new understanding of humans will emerge. So this kind of advances, which are very at the very early stages, are going to fundamentally alter not only some of the industrial base we have, even an economic base we have, but also what we mean by teaching and giving knowledge. And we are going to be moving from hyper specialized subdomains. If you did chemical engineering, you probably didn't know much about electrical, you didn't know much about physics, and so on. And so, but now that's no longer the case. The intellectual mobility is going to be very high. And at the same time, it is not just about talking and understanding. The new AI is also closing the loop from perception, which is what vision was, to cognition, which is where we are right now, understanding text, to action. And action is probably going to be the hardest, but we are going to be surprised there as well. We initially thought that the actions will be hard. I mean, plumbing will be much harder task, or carpentry will be much harder task for robotics than, let's say, analyzing text. But we are beginning to see surprises in reinforcement modeling even in those areas. So I think the future is extremely bright in terms of what is coming. Almost impossible to predict what the world will look like. And even though we might have an internet moment, internet is of course now over 30 years old in terms of commercialization. But the advances of internet in last 10 years are equally significant, in fact, more significant than they were in first 10 years. So if you were to project that a little bit outwards towards AI, the surprises of transformers, which are only 6, 7 years old, are going to be upended by new surprises, whether it's the state space models or ways to reason in ways in which you're learning while at the same time reasoning, are going to be some of the exciting times, and this is where we need the talent coming from very different domains, people who may not even be in science, who may not even be in technology, to actually imagine how this can be put into motion. Anyway, those are the sort of the set of the thoughts. I'm happy to obviously participate and see if any questions I can answer, but I love seeing everyone here.
Thank you, Rajesh. Next, I would like Shankar. Shankar is from Intel, and Intel has been doing a lot of work in AI and the various other things. So Shankar can give his insights into what his thoughts are.
Thank you. I thank the organizers to have this panel right after the coffee break. And thank you all for keeping awake. So first, let me ask, how many of us are from the semiconductor industry? Qualcomm, Intel, NVIDIA. Okay, quite a bit. I mean, yeah, I expected less, but that's good. At least a few. So I have less fact checkers, which is nice. I am Shankar Ratneshwaran. I work with Intel. I run an AI COE Center of Excellence for our large CSP/ISV providers. That means they are our large cloud service providers and independent software vendors, the likes of IBM and Oracle. We look at the most current trends when it comes to the models and see how those can be applied to the hardware that we build. Right, that's our main job, and also the outward bound, which means taking care of all the customers once the hardware is ready for deployment. That's my day job, and I also have another job, which is I have an advisory role with Risk Ops AI, which is a local company. That's why I'm here, which is registered out of Encinitas, pretty close to here. Risk Ops AI is a leader, and we're not just saying leader because we say it, but Gartner has put us in the leaders quadrant for governance, risk, and compliance. We do risk quantization, risk quantification, risk quantization, and we also look at we are all-in-one company which does risk identification, prioritization, and remediation. So we look at all the various parameters that are there in the company and provide you real-time risk governance. So with that initial pitch, I'll just move on to the real job of looking at what are the trends that are moving us in the computer hardware industry. So I think first trend we already saw Pradeep talk about larger and larger part of the data center taken over by AI. So we saw these initially, a lot of these chip companies were just providing these components, and then they started providing whole systems. Slowly they started providing racks, and now they have sub-data center level sales, right? They're thinking about not just giving some chips, but now entire sub-data centers are built by these companies. So this is obviously because of the growth of the models, right? We saw models growing from initial BERT, which you might have heard long back, which had like 250 million parameters, to now it has come to like 1.8 trillion parameters, if I'm not wrong, which is the latest ChatGPT 4.0. Right, GPT 4.0 has got about 1.8 trillion parameters, right? It's getting bigger and bigger. But I think that's what has been happening in the industry till now, right? I believe that going forward, yes, there will be a lot of this, but what Annie said in the beginning was very important, saying now we got to try to fit these models into smaller devices, because that's where we need the intelligence. It can't go all the way to the cloud and back. There are issues with that, right? So what is seen is, if you've seen the oncoming of AI PCs, right? Chips called as NPUs, neural processing units, being created and put into these smaller devices. And other trends like mobiles needing chips, robotics. At a point of time, globalization was the thing. Now localization is the thing, right? So we want to have factories in practically every country. Right? So that's creating a big demand for robotics, and that means fitting these chips into these robots. And that's creating kind of an optimization of sorts in the hardware industry. So now we're trying to make sure that the hardware is really optimum. So if you see companies like Grok, even Intel has a chip which is called Gaudi, which is trying to do not everything in the world, just focusing on AI. So we're not doing graphics processing per se. Right? We are not running games on the same device where AI is being processed. Right? So there's more focus and more bringing down of these models for specific purposes. Now, agentic AI is a great example, right? At a point of time, you needed a know-all kind of a model. ChatGPT knows everything about everything. But now, if you want to have medical expertise, you go to a different model. Right? There's a MedLM models called MedLM models. If you want to have task level expertise, you go to a different model. If you want to have specific, let's say, language expertise, you go to some of these models. So the expertise of these models are being used as libraries. So you have a library of models rather than one model knowing everything. So that's a new trend, and hence more optimized, more focused devices are being created. And that's also kind of creating, pushing us to have larger VLSI type devices like Grok, right? We talked about Grok. So Grok is like a VLSI device using less power, being more focused on AI. Now, another important trend here is the overall movement of the semiconductor industry. I'm going to be really terse here, but we've seen that digital chips are doing great, but they're not power efficient. If you were to just have, it's a simple, can anybody answer this question? If you were to just have the AI expertise that one person has in this room, how many devices do we need? Do you know an area, let's take how many racks of computers would we need? Just one person in this room. If we were to simulate it with a machine, can anybody answer that question? How many computers we'd need? We would need this entire building worth of computers, right? So that's where the problem of know-all LLMs come into play, right? We don't want know-all computers. We want specific computers which do a great job with certain tasks. So so with that, what is also happening is moving from digital computers to analog computers. So a lot of analog companies are now getting into semiconductor manufacturing. Can anybody tell me what the problem with that be? Especially the guys who are in the chip manufacturing. If analog computers were used, noise. Power is actually, it's less. So what happens is, on an analog computer, you can have not just 0 and 1s. You can have all the way from 0 to 128, right? Or it actually saves a lot of power. So analog computers have a big problem is noise. So AI is they're trying to characterize this noise with AI. They have not been very successful yet. But I believe that's the immediate change that we'll have in the semiconductor industry. That's AI-based analog chips. Mythic is an example. So Mythic is an example of companies who are trying to do this analog-based computers. The next is silicon. We all know about silicon photonics. Can we now the bigger problem, as we saw, the sub-data center level devices need to have very high-speed networking, needs to have all this fantastic, very high-speed memory, very dense chips, and so on. Can we now do all the processing while the transmission of data is happening? Right? That's the problem solved by silicon photonics. So you can actually change the color of light based on certain logic. And that can actually give you really fast processing for a lot of the problems that we have now, right? So while data is getting moved, we process it and then store it. So silicon photonics coming up in 4 to 5 years, that's going to be the next big trend. Quantum computing, we've all been hearing about it. Any guesses on how fast that's going to be? That's going to bring out a computer that can be used at home, having a quantum laptop by any chance? Good guess, but let me tell you this. Does anybody understand, right? A lot of smart people in this room. Does anybody understand how you can do AI with a quantum computer? In simple words. AI with a quantum computer. Can anybody answer this question? Okay. With all the current libraries we've got, all we can do is crack a 1024-bit AES key, right? So nobody as such knows about how you can take a quantum computer and apply it to normal algorithms as of today. AI and data processing algorithms, nobody knows how to do that. Right? If anybody can answer the question in this room, I would be surprised because there is no such answer. That's why I asked the question. I need a lot of smart people in the room. Right? So those are problems that we have to solve now. And once we solve those problems is when we'll get to quantum computing and how it could be used. And hence the focus you see is more like 10, 15 years down the line. And those are, I think, the mega trends. I would say, I don't think we have enough time for the for the micro trends. So thank you so much.
Thank you all. I think thanks for all your insights. And what we'll do is, I think during our evening break, we can have our panelists answer any questions. And, I think we're running short of time, so we'll just, do that. I think that'll be more efficient. Thank you.
This is going to be a very quick panel. Sorry, guys. I know, like Manjit traveled from the Bay Area, and like Sai from the LA area, and you from San Diego. So, quickly, just introduce yourself. Quick, like 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll go into a couple of questions addressing like hospitality, casino gaming, sports memorabilia. Okay, why don't you start, Raj?
Okay, I'll make it simple. If you were to order this phone from an Amazon, it's great. But do you know how many components go inside a phone? Probably hundreds of them. Now imagine you ordering those hundreds of components at home and trying to build your own phone. So when you look at an enterprise which is trying to solve a business problem, they need a lot of tech coming in from different companies, right from all the speakers said, the silicon to the software and the services involved in that. So my role is to bring this entire ecosystem together on technology and be able to solve enterprises' business problem, and they have no clue of whatever technology was spoken the whole day today. So how do you bring that together is what I do for Tata Consultancy Services, one of the leading system integrators in the world. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Myself, I'm Sai Kumar Tota. I'm VP of Engineering and AI/ML with Collectors, and most of you might know Collectors as PSA card, PCGS, WATA, and Card Ladder. If you are any of you are sports card collectors, the role we play is we grade, we authenticate, and we make sure that your card is original, and we give you a number for that. And prior to this, I was with Amazon, FTD, and few other Ticketmaster and few other e-commerce companies. And when I speak later with answering some of the questions that Ram would pose, I'll go into a little bit more details, but for now, I'll hand it over to the next person.
Good afternoon. My name is Manjeet Singh. I'm the CEO and founder of a cybersecurity technology company based in the Bay Area in Las Vegas. I've been doing technology for about 30 years. I know I look very young, but I have been doing this for a long time. My past experience includes software engineering as a director at Sun Microsystems at Juniper Networks. I was also a C-level executive at several gaming companies in the world. And I founded this company about 7 years ago, really to transform the technology that goes into building cyber defense for enterprises using AI and ML, and that's what we have been doing for the past few years.
What's the name of the company?
Drew Star.
Okay, so the first question that I had is, how is AI transforming your industry? Is it ROI driven, operational efficiency, or is it revenue growth?
Half of the Fortune 500 companies that existed 25 years ago are no longer there. And half of the Fortune 500 companies from today will no longer be there in the next 25 years. You could fact check this. The question here is this: are the B2B patterns from one business to the other business patterns changing? Yes, they are. I have got a lot of people in this room that can buy a car without doing a test drive of it. Could you have ever imagined something like this even 5 years ago? Even some of us in the room would not do that even today, but there is a generation which can just buy a car by 100 views from Instagram, where people within a 50-mile radius have posted their experience with the cars. And that is exactly what's happening in the enterprise world. They're looking at two dimensions. How do you run the business better, and how do you change your business? So when you look at run the business, AI is playing a very important role there. But where does the use cases come to? The use cases are very simple. 25% of the use cases are going towards sales and marketing focused, because they seems to be the easiest, non-disruptive way to look at in any organization. The next 25% is leaning towards software engineering. You have heard of vibe coding, where it can take off 8 engineers out of 10 and be able to code through 2. 10% of that is now going to software R&D, where the companies are doing their R&D around this. And everything else is going to all the other aspects, whether it is operations, finance, supply chain, etc. So this is the way we are seeing it, Ram, from our vantage point.
Same thing.
Thank you, Ram. For our company, there are two sides of this. One is empowering the customer, and second is operational efficiency. So in the space where we are the authenticators and graders for these sports cards, I'll talk about empowering the customer. Customer cares to know what am I holding in my hand? Is it a $10 card or is it a $10 million card? I don't know. Then what is its actual value? Is it a counterfeit? Is it worth grading? If I spend $1,000, will it increase the value by $10,000 or is it a loser deal for me, right? An example is I was in National once and a $600,000 card, my buddies bought it for $600 and someone was selling it. That looks like a steal. But when we took it to grading, it was worth zero. And the reason is someone cut the edge. It was an authentic card, but if you just cut the edge, it's worth nothing. So the difference between a PSA grade 10 and a PSA grade 9 could be 10 times different. The same card, which is original, can be $10 million or it can be $1 million. So giving all these capabilities in the hands of a customer as self-help tools will put the customer in the driver's seat. That is one. On the operational side, where we use AI ML, is one of the aspects is, one of the aspects is how do you increase the throughput of and productivity of the graders and the researchers. For example, PS is the leader in this space, and we cannot keep up with the traffic that we are getting. So for example, one of the aspects of you getting a PSA 9 or a PSA 10 is centering. Little bit of off-center will change the grade from a 9 to 10, right? So for a grader and a researcher, these AI ML tools from an image detection perspective will give them a lot of facts that can increase their productivity. And next is same thing with the counterfeit detection. A lot of times we need not be accurate. For example, if we say out of a batch of million items that we graded, these 10 are counterfeits, maybe only 8 are counterfeits. But we don't have to pay. Had we not caught those counterfeits, we would pay for those counterfeits. That's the benefit you get by grading with us. So this is another thing that we use for AI ML. And a couple of more things is price estimation. For example, what is the worth of they can be one-of-one cards which are sold 5 years ago. It's sold for $10,000. What do you think its value would be today? Even if you compare it with Bitcoin or something like that, maybe 10x. If you compare it with the real estate, maybe 2x. But guess what? Some of them could be 1000x, right? So, but you cannot say when the statistically insignificant sales happen, averages means doesn't mean anything. So how do you extrapolate something from the past with a more relevant value to the present? AI/ML plays a big role in that. And the one last thing I would add where we are using AI/ML is how do we bring the flywheel, the ecosystem for the customers is customer cares, as I said, like what cards are on my plate and what is their value and what can I do with that, right? So we used AI/ML to detect and scan and detect the cards, the specific, what card are we talking about? For example, some of the cards, if they have a serial number, they're worth like 100 times more than without a serial number. So this puts the customer in driver's seat. And we recently, about a month or so before, we launched a PSA app, and my team was all the AI/ML APIs that were driving the front end were actually from my team, and this is actually an industry leader, and we are proud to have that. So I'll have into the next person.
Thanks, Sai. I'll answer that question for two industries. First one is gaming, which I'm very familiar with, having worked in gaming for the last 18 years. In gaming, it really comes down to two things. What's your cost of acquisition of a client? And what's your cost of retaining that client? And it doesn't really matter which segment of gaming you're talking about. And really, the focus, I've always argued that the focus should be on retention because it's a lot easier to keep a client than to acquire a client. It's a lot cheaper as well. So thankfully, now we are seeing some innovation around personalization, marketing spend, and promotional optimization, which is beginning to happen in the gaming industry. I think that's where the money is for the gaming industry, and there is some innovative work happening in that area. For cybersecurity, right now the bad guys actually have the edge. They've been using AI to make their phishing campaigns more effective. They no longer have spelling errors, in case you have not noticed it. They seem to have gotten really good in English, and that's thanks to the technology. They're able to generate literally millions of attacks on a daily basis, whereas previously they didn't have the compute power or the technology to do that. So they are leading. However, my company, DrewStar, we use for cyber defense AI. So we try and find patterns. We try to increase visibility of coverage. We try to find patterns faster, automatically detect pattern rather than doing rule-based matching, which is what most of the industry has done until recently. So on the defense, it's catching up, but really there's no way out of it if you're not using some of the AI concepts in cyber defense either.
This works. So Sai, looks like you have a lot of machine learning and AI applications that are running. So how did you move from a proof of concept state? Because I know through the industry, it is almost 80% of the projects don't move from a proof of concept to a real world application. So how did you go about going through that phase, and how did you come out of it?
Good question, Ram. Most of the time, proof of concept is easy in the sense that we catch hold of a thing that we know it's possible, there is no ambiguity, and we make it happen. But taking it to production, especially in the AI/ML world, there's a lot of ambiguity the scientists, data scientists have to deal with. Now, the challenges I face is executives want to see you're burned down very linearly. You said you'll deliver in 3 months, and you wanted 10 people, and you said it's feasible because you had a proof of concept. But the reality is, sometimes we move, the results are way better than what we think, and sometimes they're way worse. Sometimes, even I have seen scenarios where when you do something manually, because at the end of the day, there's AI/ML within each of us, that is more efficient than some algorithms, but that cannot scale. So some smart executive will come and say that, hey, this model does not have even common sense, which is true. But as it iterates, as it learns, as it delivers results, the aha moment comes. So setting the right expectations, making sure that we break the success into smaller chunks that have business value in an iterative model, learning from that, delivering value, and keeping the morale of the team high, I think that is one of the biggest challenges and lessons I have learned.
And Raj, question for you. You work with a lot of the Fortune 500,000 clients. So where are you seeing real ROI, and just not somebody using ChatGPT and saying that we are doing AI?
There is nothing called real ROI right now. We'll be very, very practical here. If you look at any enterprise, no matter which industry it is, it could be banking, it could be manufacturing, it could be life sciences, it could be technology, energy, utilities. It's very interesting. Amara's law says that we overestimate the effect of a technology or the return of a technology in a short term, but we underestimate in the long run. So what's happening is everybody is trying to throw too much technology and expecting a result fast, and it's not working out. So that's the reason the proof of concepts going to scale to the ROI is difficult. So look at it in a family of 4 or 5. You deciding to go on a vacation. How do you decide where do you go, where do you stay, how do you travel? The same thing is happening with enterprises. There are different personas in an enterprise, and each of them has to come together to decide how their overall AI implementation strategy would be. None of them bothers about the tech. They have a business problem to solve, and they come to you. So the best way we have felt is the way we figure out that ROI is start with the high value, low complex problems to begin with. Very simple to implement. Fix the data because AI returns only on the right data. And that's where a lot of effort goes in. The third dimension is be iterative, not perfectionist. Learn through the process of iteration and then do. Fourth is modernize your infrastructure. And the most important is people. There is huge shortage of people when it comes to both AI and cybersecurity, and you don't have people. You have to reskill your workforce. So it's the game of people, process, and process is important. Imagine you fold your arms and sit like this. Now try it the other way. It's not easy. So the processes have to be modified, and then comes technology. So a lot of the people have fancy PowerPoints, but with no power and no point in those PowerPoints. So the whole idea is how do you really bring that message out from a practical perspective is the way we see it, Ram. Yeah.
Anything to add? Sai, Manjeet?
For us, my experience is that it took us nearly 2.5 years to have an effective machine learning model. So that was a very frustrating experience. But now my speed of innovation is very fast. I think of a feature, it comes out in 3 months. And so that's a really sweet spot. So it is very frustrating to do the initial work. But once you've got the infrastructure, you can move a lot faster. In my youth, that would have taken 3 years. I'm able to do that work in three months because of the richness of the underlying infrastructure that we have developed.
I want to add one thing. Just one thing I want to add. A chat GPT query, you could do that. And you have been doing Google search for years. A chat GPT query takes 833% more electricity than a Google search. Please be mindful. There is a country by the name Lagos. Now, in order to run this huge compute that is created by the likes of Intel, we heard NVIDIA, Qualcomm, you need data centers. These data centers are generating tremendous amount of heat, and that heat cannot be cooled by the normal HVACs. What do you need to cool them? Water. Now, countries like Lagos are running out of fresh water because they're redirecting their fresh water to cool down those data centers to reduce the heat. So sustainability is becoming an important dimension when you are looking for planning for any enterprise to embrace AI very holistically and be able to order to deliver. So that's one point just I wanted to add. Sustainability, security, data, compute, storage, every single dimension has to be looked at in this entire capacity. And that's where we sit down with the client and help them understand and define their problem first rather than creating the solution, because they really are very clear what they don't want to do and they have absolutely no idea on what they want to do. So this is the way it is going to be a very game changing. So consulting and strategy is very, very key for us to do. And get to market. How do you get to market through this entire ecosystem is very, very critical.
Thank you, Raj. So a different topic altogether. So I think I heard somebody say that each rack of like GPUs will be like 500 kVA or something. So is that like where are we going to get that electricity to power all those racks? Anybody? Nuclear? Okay. Okay. So really, thank you guys. Just like closing thoughts, just like 1 quick minute.
If you are creating a tech, understand who is going to be the buyer and why would they need what you are creating. The why is the key. We know the what and the how very well, but we do not put that focus on the why. So create and understand the why of what you are creating from a tech perspective, whether you're a startup, whether you are a large company creating a newer technology, a newer chipset, and that's going to be very, very key going forward. Thank you. Thank you.
What about edge servers? And of course, don't answer about Greenland at all. But edge servers to reduce portable edge servers
Great question, Anil. Cloud repatriation is happening. A lot of companies move to the cloud, but imagine each of you having to spend $1 on every WhatsApp message that you send. How many WhatsApp messages are you going to send that day? How many forwards or good morning messages are you going to send that day? This means that with AI and Gen AI building up, you will start to move a lot of that traffic from the cloud to the edge, and the edge will become key. Now, what I read is for every dollar of the GPU that you spent for an NVIDIA, there is $1 of all overhead expenses that you have to do from electricity and everything, plus 60% overhead cost that goes in developing the application framework on top of that. For you to be profitable, look at how much are you going to sell it for, and are your users going to buy it. So the edge will play a very, very key role, Anil, and this is going to be a great edge device. This is one of the biggest edge devices you'll use. All your PCs, your phones, your glasses, everything. You have rings that you're wearing. All of them will become edge devices to help you distribute that. Yep.
That's another product direction, right?
Yes, that's on the way as well. Yes.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, we see that demand already, so if you go to rural areas, even in the US, they just don't have the level of connectivity that you need. And, in healthcare industry, especially if you go to tribal nations, we are seeing this need emerge both on the healthcare side and on the gaming side. Tribal nations own 1/3 of the gaming in the country, in the US itself. And so they're concerned about data sovereignty. They own the data. They don't want the federal government to have access to the data. So because of all these needs, there is actually edge computing will be coming to on-prem. And in fact, our solution is one of the very few solutions that actually can work in the cloud as well as on-prem. And I do expect that demand will continue to rise.
One last thing, Ram, if I may. I'm very happy to see a lot of young students coming, including my own son there, and I see a few others there. One thing I want to tell them is, we all are students in this space. AI/ML is real, and none of us know. There's no one path to it. We are at different stages, but it's a multi-dimensional thing. So what is the beginning? We know what is the beginning, but we don't know where the end is. And I'll give an analogy, something to blockchain and NFT. Blockchain is real, but if you really dig through the use cases of NFT, it's more adding to his point, instead of what problem are you trying to solve, the solution is there first, and the problem, we're thinking of what problems to solve later, right? That doesn't last for a long time. But in the case of AI/ML, it's the other way around. The number of problems that you can solve, there's no limit to that. It's only your creativity, your passion, your want, and it's a limitless thing, and there's nothing like that any of us have seen. If I may dare to compare with something, it's more like having a computer and not having a computer, or even the internet. It is that big, is that real, and we are all students. We are all there to learn from each other. There's no shame in it, so let's all learn together.
I really don't have an answer for you. I struggle with the same thing, and yeah. So that's the world we live in. When I solve it, I'll be announcing it on LinkedIn. So.
See, I'll end up with one thing very interesting. In the morning, my wife asked me, "Would you have chai?" I said, "Yes, I will have chai with AI." So I said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I have to go in and speak today." And he said, I said, "Jay asked me, and Jay is also JAI with an AI. I have to be there." She said, "But what is chai with AI?" I said, "Chai with adrak and elaichi." So the whole idea is when you embody life in that, you can really enjoy life in a different way.
Hey, now I can say I'm JAI.
Yeah.
Hey, the question was asked by Ram's wife, but let's see if Ram can answer that. That's why I asked the panel here. I need the panel every time I have to answer a question. No. So. Or
I didn't even realize that. See,
yeah.
When he said J, I'm like, that's right, but I didn't realize even my own name is like.
Thank you, panel. Thanks, Manjeet, for coming all the way from the Bay Area.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sai. Thank you, Raj. Very much appreciated. And so, announcing the next panel, Prakash, if you can come and take over. And Prakash is going to bring all the things together. Now we are talking about all the technology, and he's going to enlighten us on what you can do, what you cannot do, and how to profit from it.
That's a tall order. So Ram and Pankaj told me that although we have had great sessions all the day today, they have preserved the best one for the last one. So this is going to be the last session. And we are going to talk about a very interesting subject. And to do that, we'll have lawyers here, right, to talk. So the subject is IP and legal challenges and opportunities with AI. So we have a bunch of lawyers and lawyer-like people to talk about it. So let me call upon the panelists to stage. The first one is Hung Soo Choi. Since we have been told to do AI, which is adaptive intelligence, since we don't have a lot of time, I'll read their bio instead of giving them 2 minutes to talk about it, right? So Hung Soo is partner at Knob Martens, one of the largest IP firms in the country with more than 24 years of IP experience. Hung Soo is skilled in taking challenging patents and getting them allowed quickly. So thank you, Hung Soo. Next one is Nasiha Machingal. Nasiha is a customer success leader in Legal Ease Solutions, a leading provider of legal solutions with more than 15 years of experience teaching solutions for clients. Nasiha specializes in intersection of AI and legal services. Thanks, Nasiha.
Thank you for having me.
Next one is Paul Liu. Paul is the General Counsel at Packet Fabric Inc., leading the legal function there, including commercial contracts, litigation, employment law, compliance, and intellectual property. Packet Fabric is a remote-first company that provides network as a service solution to for customers via its software portal. No, I can stand. I can stand and ask questions.
Are you sure?
Yeah, sure. I've been sitting
Hello.
all day. I can get it. Our last panelist is Ryan. Ryan Furtado. Ryan is the IP counsel at Viasat Inc., a global technology and communications company based in Carlsbad. After over 10 years as outside counsel at IP boutiques and general practice firms, he is now in-house counsel at the company. Ryan has extensive experience working with AI inventions and tools on both sides of the proverbial table. So thanks, Ryan. So folks, we have a star-studded client, and we have interesting questions as well. And if time permitting, we'll take one or two from the audience as well. So let me start with the first question. We want to be quick because lawyers are very expensive, right? So let me start with Hung Soo. So what are the types of IP that AI generates? Is it inputs, outputs, data, models? What kind of IP?
So 4 types of IP are patent, trademark, copyright, and trade secret. Unique AI algorithm can be protected by patent. But this time it's getting more difficult to get a patent. You need a good strategy to go through the examination. For example, you need a good claim strategy and then examiner interview. And then pure data, pure AI inputs or outputs are generally not patentable, but you can get a patent if you tie with a technical application, practical application. For example, you can get a patent for unique interfacing method to interact with an AI system that can achieve technical result. You also can get a patent for novel application of AI in a technical field, such as medical diagnosis or image recognition or autonomous driving control, where you use an output, AI output to perform a unique technical operation. And raw training data is generally not patentable, but you can protect with a trade secret. And different aspects of same algorithm can be protected by patent and trade secret. For example, high-level algorithm can be protected by patent, whereas a specific AI features such as parameters and weight can be protected as trade secret.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to chime in? Okay. So the next one for Nasiha. So Nasiha, there is a lot of battle of sorts between proprietary AI models and open source ones. We don't know which one is winning. Both are going strong. So what are some of the pros and cons of each of them, and where do you see this heading? It'll be a dual world where you'll have a mix of these things, or one will win over the other?
Firstly, I want to say it's interesting how this panel was positioned last. It's like we speak about the amazing opportunities of AI, and then we finish it with legal and IP. It's like beware, So I love that this is towards the end. Now, in terms of answering the question, I think there's pros and cons to both models. If you look at proprietary, it was fascinating to see NVIDIA presentation as well as a few people from Microsoft here. And I think one of the biggest advantages of proprietary is the performance excellence. When you're looking at proprietary AI model, you're looking at greater computing power and greater performance excellence. They also have greater reliability because they come with dedicated support just in terms of helping you with those AI models. There's better legal protection. So if you're using a proprietary model, most often we have seen that the liability is taken by the provider rather than the implementer. So if you're a company and if you have a proprietary model, then there's better legal protection for you. So that's one. And since we're in the legal industry, we take notes. So I have some notes here. There's also cons to it. Now, if you're looking at proprietary model being implemented, it's higher cost. You're making longer cost of API, which means it's expensive, just in terms of maintaining that model. There's also a lot of restrictions in terms of your licensing. We've seen proprietary models just giving restrictions in terms of usage, which limits your usage of it to be able to customize it. So your proprietary models are not so easily customizable. And then one important thing, especially from a legal and IP perspective, that proprietary models present as a challenge, as a con, is the fact that they're not transparent. They're still a black box. We spoke so much about Microsoft and NVIDIA. Do we all really know what that architecture is like? Have they really showed it to all of us? The answer is no. Nobody knows it. So there's still a black box that exists. If you are implementing a proprietary model, you're locked with a single vendor. You don't have the chance to plug and play across. So that's, again, a restriction. And then there's data privacy. The data is leaving your environment, and you're on somebody else's environment, and that's risky from a legal perspective. Now, if you look at the OpenAI models, they're definitely more cost efficient. They're customizable. I heard agent AI throughout the day. So you can customize it, you can plug and play with it, which is amazing. They're more transparent. They will show you their framework and architecture more than what Microsoft would show you. So there you go, that's a win. They can be run locally, which means your data is protected, while in proprietary, you could have a data privacy concern. You're not logged in a single vendor. You can plug and play with Llama, Claude, ChatGPT, and so on. But then again, these models have their own cons. There's a performance gap. I do see this being bridged and closed a lot, but there's still a performance gap when you look at proprietary models when compared to open models. The liability is very unclear with OpenAI models. The liability falls on you. It doesn't fall on the provider. And that's risky if you're a company and you're looking at your legal terms closely. You need more resources to implement the OpenAI models. And then you don't have a dedicated support team like what the proprietary models offer you. Today, Microsoft, Claude, all of them offer you dedicated customer support teams. And when you're building OpenAI, you're really learning from a community. So I would say that's kind of the difference. Now, what would you choose? It's purely based on use case. We've seen enterprise firms really go with the proprietary models, and smaller firms go with the OpenAI models.
And a lot of times, open really doesn't mean really open, right? I mean, open AI is anything but open in my view, right? Yes. So, anybody else has views on it?
I also wonder if
the tension between the two is simply one of a emerging technology as well. Typically, a lot of emerging technologies start off with you need to build trust and you need to kind of get it out there. So it goes for more. Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah. It goes to more of an open model, like using open source and other types of ways of getting the technology out there until they want more ROI on that later, and then it might go toward a proprietary model. I wonder if that's like a trend that will happen here as well.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Cool. So I have this one for Ryan. There is a lot of legal challenges. At least there is one that New York Times and with 10 other content creators, it's running. There are a few of them running through the court system, but this is the most prominent one. And I think a few days ago, actually a federal judge, basically OpenAI asked a judge to dismiss the case. This is a copyright case, but he said it's a valid case. He kind of narrowed the scope a little bit, but still let it run. Probably the actual trial will happen later this year or early next year. So my question is a little bit related but different. So as a company, as an enterprise, when you're looking at using and implementing these AI models and AI tools, what are some of the considerations, like specifically from legal and liability standpoint? I mean, obviously, if you're using them, you're opening yourselves to liability as well, right? So.
Sure, no, that's a great question. And before I get to that, I want to make one comment that to what Nasiha said about this being the last discussion of IP. And as an IP attorney, and I imagine Hung Soo might say this too, is you don't want this to be the last conversation you have. You want IP to be the first conversation, at least from an IP perspective. So to your question about risks, there's a lot of risks, and that's a big question that companies have when they're trying to either bring in tools and say, hey, how can we use these tools to make our processes more efficient, or if we're trying to generate AI tools for others to use. From the first perspective, I would say, and that's where I'll approach most of my conversation, is the question of, like Nasiha mentioned, who owns the content that's going in? You don't have a lot of this information about what are in these black boxes, and a lot of them, Microsoft, the OpenAIs, will have terms in their service agreements saying, we'll take the indemnification for it. We don't have to worry about that. But that's great for the OpenAIs, for the Microsofts, the large companies that are there. But there are plenty of tools that are coming from smaller companies that could be very useful, very helpful. And then there's a little bit of the question of, can you trust them? Do they have the money behind them to put my billion-dollar company at risk for this? Or am I going to be left holding the bag at the end of the day? So there's not, unfortunately, an easy answer to that. We have to see what these court cases do. There's also the question, and I'm sure some of you may have seen, the outputs that come from these tools. Are they actually usable tools? Are they going to get you in trouble for using them? I mean, you see lawyers that have used these AI tools and they've created legal cases that they've then cited and then have been challenged on, saying, where did these come from? And then they've got to admit, oh, it was made up. And that raises the question then, what's the liability even for the outputs? Because in certain situations, if you're using these tools to generate code and you put that code into something that creates a bigger problem, are you creating liability for yourself down the road just from using this AI tool that was intended originally to make your processes more efficient? So there's lots of different questions from the company side, and I wish there was an easy answer. I mean, I like AI tools. I think they can be very helpful, but there's lots of questions that go into it. Some of it even too on the training data side. You want these closed models because I've got all this information that I don't want my competitors to get. So I need my model trained on my information, and I don't want external information because I don't want to share my information. But then there's the question of, am I building in the problems that my data has in it? Am I really getting the benefit of an AI model if I'm just rehashing the same, regurgitating the same inputs over and over again because I don't want to be influenced by other people's information. I also don't want other people to get my information. And there's that big question at the end of the day of what happens to the data, who sees it, since you're not willing, none of these systems that I've seen are willing to share that information with you. So you can watch the data flow through the process and say, okay, I'm comfortable with that. But until I see that, I'm not gonna be able to sign off on giving my information to other people. So there's just a lot of questions. There are no real answers yet. It's gonna be, well, let's see what these legal cases get. That'll help with some of the liability for infringement of people's copyrights and things like that. But I think at the end of the day, there's still gonna be the question of, until I get to understand what goes into that black box, I'm gonna be hesitant to sign off my data going into them for others to use or to be able to use other people's information for mine.
Yeah, I agree. Tons of questions, but I mean, companies have to do business, right? So, what are some of the considerations you think people should look at who don't have IP attorneys on their payroll, for example,
Sure.
right, before using? Because
Yeah.
they have to minimize risk, right? So, what are some of the guidelines?
Now, I mean, from my perspective, I would say it's a balance of the risks and the potential payout. If you see the risk, like, for whatever reason, the models that you would be using have a lot of content that could come from your competitors, then you need to get assurances from the model, whoever's providing the model, that either they'll limit that or they'll be able to segment your model out from other people's and get assurances from them. And at the end of the day, it will be your interaction and your agreements with those model providers that you can look back on and hold them to the fire if it comes to it. So it's making sure that have attorneys look at the agreements, making sure that either from an IP perspective, if you have IP that's generated, that's covered, or from the liability perspective, that your general corporate attorneys take a look at that and make sure that they're happy with your liability risks. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's not an easy answer. I'd say get an attorney involved is probably the best because they'll have the background to say, yes, these are okay terms, or these are terms that we see dozens of other companies making, or saying, oh no, look, this is a red flag. Nobody's ever asked this before. We need to follow up on this type thing.
So you're saying no matter what, who wins or loses, there has to be attorney fees.
Yeah, the attorney wins at the end of the day. So.
Right. Anybody else want to chime in, especially?
I was like, get an attorney.
Indemnification, right? I mean, I've seen, but that indemnification clauses have tons of small font, which nobody can read. But so it's not a silver bullet, if you will, even if a company gives an indemnification, right?
No, for sure. Yeah, indemnification is a nice potential coverall, but at the end of the day, there's so much legalese that goes into these languages, into these agreements, that you might think you're covered, and then they point to another section saying, well, you warranted this part here, or your inputs are supposed to be what we base our indemnification on. So if your inputs are bad, our indemnification is out the door. So that's where, like, honestly, I hate to say it, it's very self-serving as an attorney, but getting an attorney involved is helpful because there's so much that goes into it. They don't want to open themselves up. I mean, the Microsofts, the OpenAIs, they're there to make business, to do business, and they don't want the bad press, so they're going to do the best they can. But there are plenty of use cases that are just so many edge cases that your company might be a little bit particular, and you might need to look at it a little bit differently. I mean, some companies are very happy using those tools, the Microsoft's Copilot, all those other tools like internally that are built into the Office and all the other stuff, and they can be great. And at that level, you probably have minimal risk. There's no, you're not going to be too concerned. But if you're looking at code generation for your team, or more intricate tools that are tied in more intimately with your business, that's where I think it's a lot more important to get something a little bit more specific. Make sure you have an attorney that can sign off and say, yeah, that is, since it's so independent or dependent upon your business, I think you need to get someone who can really look at it in depth and look at it with the right eyes and give you the analysis on the legal side.
Yeah, I see some few hands. Let me finish my questions, then we come to, I'll definitely come to your question.
It's more a comment on your question.
If it's very quick one, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm an attorney as well.
Okay.
I work in-house as well. And I think to add on to what you're saying, I think there's a really good plug for AI governance here. Yep. I think, if you have an AI governance program built in, so whether you have a team of in-house counsel or you have one in-house counsel, if there's sort of a trigger of questions that the other teams are looking at, whether it's the use of a marketing team using an AI product, a product team, whether you're using it for generating output or whatever it is, I think there's a number of threshold questions that can be asked about what type of data are you putting in, are there privacy concerns related to the data input, who's owning the data that comes out of it, and I think there are some threshold questions that if they're triggered, then you might go to an outside counsel, or if you have a team of in-house counsel, then I think that works. But I think AI governance is key there, and having a strong sort of policy that says if any of these things are triggered, then escalate.
I think corporate legal departments are doing that.
Yeah.
They are creating AI governance teams. There are also AI policies. In fact, just last week I saw a general counsel asking that please add the language and use of AI in my NDA. So it's starting from the basic contract, which is NDA. So legal departments have started realizing that we have a bad legal structure, and the pace at which AI is evolving, we need to up our legal framework, and they're doing that. So we will see more of that to come, but that's a great point. I think AI governance structures and AI codes, AI policies. In fact, one of our clients asked us, can you guys create a checklist of how to use ChatGPT even in our firm? We don't want people just asking ChatGPT to review the contracts. I mean, attorneys can do that, and AI will not get it right. But even then, you want to create guardrails around this. Yeah.
Okay. So anybody else?
No, I'll follow up on that. I think that was a great point to make. The policies, having governments in place, and especially for the people here, put those policies in place sooner than later. The worst thing is to be reactive about something like this, and the attorneys hate that. When we're brought in, especially on the IP side, when we're brought in after the engineers have started already using a tool to say, is this good? Are we okay using this? And then have to go backtrack and either say, no, stop using it until we figure it out. Like, it starts annoying people. It pisses everyone else up on the chain, pardon my language. But I think, it's to that point.
Especially when you're using an unpaid version of an AI service, and now you basically put a bunch of information and lost all of the ownership of that information.
Exactly.
So.
Okay, good. So maybe look at how to make money with this, right? Not just talk about the challenges. So Paul, this is to you to begin with. So we have seen that people use IP as a monetizing tool, like we have Qualcomm and InterDigital, a good example here for tech. So do you see AI IP being a monetization tool and making it a business, not developing products and services, but using just IP as a product or a service for monetizing?
I guess it is possible. It kind of depends on like if you're drawing the direct analogy to like the communication standards from 3GPP. Of course, these are standards, and so therefore that's kind of why there is such a large standards essential type monetization, because people have to adhere to the particular standards that are out there. And as of right now, AI, as you guys would know, it's not really standardized. There isn't any like interoperability requirement in the same way that, say, 3GPP or other types of standard bodies, need to exist, and they would need to exist in a manner that isn't like free and just open for everyone to use, but they want to actually make it proprietary, and they're incentivized to do so. So I guess in terms of the direct analogy, if there is something that is exactly like that comes out of AI. Like for example, if there is standardization for interoperability, or maybe even I could see it maybe for certain AIs will be better than others, for example, or trustworthy for some reason, or have better visibility, or it's better tested, then maybe there actually might come through an issue, a time when that kind of AI could be monetized in the same way that those communication standards are monetized. Otherwise, like AI might still have the same issues with kind of patent monetization, the same way that, say, software itself has issues with issues on detectability, issues on kind of things kind of falling into particular products or services, and other types of kind of less comprehensive ways of easily monetizing the IP itself. So it's kind of hard to say, but if it moves in the direction of things that have been monetized, then certainly it can be.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of ways of looking at it as well, right? So one is, I mean, if it is a proprietary model, then it is being directly monetized because you are licensing it, right? So
right, yeah.
The other one is, I mean, we are at a very early stage where everybody has, their mom has a model now, right? So, but at some point of time, they have to be a little bit interoperative. For example, I mean, if I have basically adopted, say, a Google's model for my enterprise, and then now I have to move to OpenAI's or Amazon's or Anthropic or something like that, I don't have to start from scratch, right? There should be some interoperability between I take all my learnings from this model and easily port that over to the next one and start from there rather than going back. So I mean, it's a very open question. It's very early, but I want to pick you guys' brain on, you see that kind of thing happening? Do you see enterprises are understanding this need that there has to be some interoperability, then we have to start working on it now, or it's still a wild west as we see now?
So I think throughout the entire day we heard about LLMs, large language models. Yeah. What the legal industry specifically might go towards would be SLMs, small language models. And there is a lot of opportunity for specific legal use case scenarios. Again, I have to be honest, legal is probably, the last in the chain of adopters of AI when compared to every other industry, just because of, the accessibility and also the comfort attorneys need with AI. But I think where we are heading towards for legal industry is specific small use cases being built. So we can see that with different legal AI products out in the market today. We have a lot of really good legal products for mergers and acquisitions that's helping with the process. We have for contract review and negotiation. So there is an opportunity. Again, like to Ryan's point and the entire panel's point, it really depends upon just in terms of liability and infringement, indemnification, what maybe looking closer at these softwares will really help legal industry just in terms of understanding, is this a good fit for legal or not?
So question to you. So you talked about the, for different types of IP. So are you seeing your customers using AI IP as more of an offensive play or a defensive play or both?
Let me tell you two challenging IP trends in AI, generative AI area. So one is that there is an increasing difficulty in getting a patent in these areas, and the other one is more software and AI patents are being invalidated as being an abstract idea. So how do we handle these challenges? My strategy is to cooperate with patent examiner as much as possible, and specifically claim new invention for quick allowance in your original patent, and then file a broadening continuation application based on the same disclosure. So because the same examiner handles both the parent and then continuation, and because the same examiner already allowed the first application, it's generally much easier to get the child application allowed. And also, I suggest at least 3 patents for one invention to have different scopes of protection. For example, narrower, intermediate, and broader patents that can likely survive a future invalidity challenge.
Anybody else wants to chime in? Or okay, good. So, sorry? No, okay. I saw a couple of hands. Any questions from the audience? Okay, go ahead.
Interoperability, whether it's a T10, whether it's anything else. And that's how usually things have been done in the US. People put their patent portfolio up, large companies, and then there are outliers who refuse to participate. So that's how it has been done. That's one comment. The other comment is on the music industry, the copyright thing in the music industry. There is a way to kind of allocate royalties, and for this, for the copyright, etc., for this, what's happening currently in the AI field, it would probably come with regulations to that effect. As far as your point on the non-practice, the point that's unaddressed, I mean, of course, we talk with the examiners, I do it all the time, and of course, people can go to court. I mean, it's just not enough to go to the patent office. I have had to, as an inventor, on 150 patents, have had to go to courts, as an inventor and had to have depositions 4.5 hours from non-practicing entities. So that's not the issue. The non-practicing entities owning things, the AI IP, could actually cause a lot of problems, which is in many countries are non-practicing entities. In Korea, for example, they are not. You have to actually trade the invention. You have to create some constructive embodiment, as it's called. So in the United States, there's a lot of things which are going on, and over this overarching thing, which is not understood, that in China, 4 times as many, in fact 4 or 5 years back, 4 times as many patents are filed. In the PCT, virtually all the Chinese companies, the US capital investment is so little. I mean, we are kind of almost like a third world country when compared to the People's Republic in many of these things, no matter what we say. It's a very complex issue, and they have lost there, and people are fighting over this law that this OpenAI has got, telling we must do what the Chinese government allows us to do. Yeah. Basically, and they're powerful. It's basically telling the IP attorneys and everybody
it's geopolitical issue. We decided not to discuss because of the time we had. But do you have a comment? Is that a comment or a question?
I made all those comments in terms of.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Okay.
Finished, but I think I addressed the interoperability and the.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I understand. Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Just to add on to that, in terms of even the recent copyright rules, case ruling that happened in the United States, I don't think there's a single definitive act or rule right now. We will see mixed rulings. Some cases might be ruled in favor of content creators. Some might be ruled in favor of fair AI, use of AI and data practices as well. But what we're going to see is we're going to see the Supreme Court bring on some single ruling in terms of use of AI and how the data can be trained. So there's a lot more to come in the legal, landscape, and there is actually a committee actively working on it, just in terms of fair use of AI, because fair use of AI is a gray area. You can argue that, hey, my intent to train the data was different, so it will be interesting to see how the court rules in favor of home,
Yeah, and that's the only case. I don't see this will be. Yeah. It'll be a series of cases, yes. Ultimately ending up at Supreme Court and they making a large major decision that will set the precedence. In my view, it's not going to be solved in one day or two. All right, so I'm afraid that's all the time we had today. Join me in thanking our excellent panel for this excellent presentation. And thanks to Ty for giving us an opportunity. Thank you.
Let's give them a big hand.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, Dino, don't move. Okay, we have 3 more things. I'm going to introduce the next person. She'll have 5-minute update. Then we are doing an award ceremony. We have 16 winners. They have worked really hard. They are all here. So they want your enthusiasm. And yes, please. And then I checked. I said, can we start serving wine while we are doing the award ceremony? But the person who is supposed to serve shows up only at 5:45. So you have to wait. But we saved the best for last. We have some really good wine and cheese. Okay? So let me introduce you to Rebecca Deller. Rebecca runs the IGE program. So I was talking to Jay. I said, Thai, the international entrepreneur or the Indian entrepreneur. And then I met Rebecca, IGE, the Institute of Global Entrepreneur. So Rebecca is kind enough to sponsor the event. She has had 2 tables outside. Yep. Let's give her a few minutes. So we'll learn about IGE and how we can work together.
Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you. Thank you very much. I know it's late in the afternoon. Thank you all that are still here. I will try to make this very brief. I have been so delighted to be in the ecosystem of Pankaj. We all know what he's capable of doing. This has been an amazing event. So I'm really grateful to be here. So thank you for that. In the spirit of trying to go fast, I wish they would be serving wine right now. I just want to give you a brief overview of the program that I'm part of at UC San Diego. Hopefully everyone in this room is familiar with UC San Diego. Can I see a show of hands? Everyone who knows about the amazing academic institution up on the hill. While I am not a UCSD alum, I am a UC alum, and I've had 2 kiddos graduate within the UC system, so I'm a lover of the UC. That's why I'm doing the job I do right now, which is my second path after raising kids. It's my way of giving back, and I have a healthcare background, so it's a perfect marriage. I am so lucky to be at Jacobs School of Engineering, a top 10 engineering program in the United States, and get to marry the brilliance coming out of UC San Diego, which inspires me every single day with doing good for the greater good in the future. So the MedTech Accelerator Program is the program I run. I always say all roads lead back to engineering, and it's true. We work with the School of Medicine, UCSD Health, the Rady School of Management, and all the other partners on campus. We really pride ourselves on the collaboration that we do throughout campus. The Chancellor, Pradeep Khosla, who will be, as I understand it, your esteemed presenter in your October gala. He is a big driver behind the innovation ecosystem on our campus, which hopefully helps for the San Diego economic system as well as the United States in general. Real quickly, as I mentioned, we run a program. It's a 3-process program. I just quickly go through the slides because I know we're very limited on time. We start with the NS. Let me go this way. That's what it looks like. So we start with a funnel. It's called Stage 1. You have to be affiliated with UC San Diego. Now, you can be an alumni, you can be a current faculty or physician, you can be an undergrad, you can be staff, but you must be part of UC San Diego in some way, some form. Of course, we like it when the IP comes from UC San Diego, but it is not required. We have several teams in our cohort right now. Their IP is not UC San Diego. However, it's benefiting the entire ecosystem because they are connecting with, for example, the Shiley Healthcare, the VA. We've got a lot of collaboration that goes on. Okay, going fast. So Stage 1 is we do this twice a year in the fall and the spring. Applications are already out for fall. It's a 12-week program. It's started by a prerequisite to do the NSF I-Core program, which is customer discovery, especially for those that are in the lab and scientists. That's really important to get their head up and understand who their customers are. And then we move on to stage 2, and that's the real sweet spot. Thanks to Dean Alpizano, we have a great fund that provides $100,000 of resources that doesn't cover my overhead or our staff. It goes directly to the teams. We partner with amazing mentors. That is my ask for you here. If anybody wants to get involved, please go ahead and go out to our table and scan the Stay in Touch. We are constantly looking for C-suite executive mentors. We do pay for that. And what else am I trying to show you really quickly on stage 2? And so they stay with us at stage 2 until they do a large exit of seed exit, which is usually around $5 to $10 million. And from there, they go on into the alumni status where they still stay very connected to us, and we help them in any way we can with our connections with wonderful investors like yourselves. And so we do have a few of those that are in stage 1. Melio is a recent stage 2 graduate, and that is in the AI space. And I believe Ty actually was one of her early investors. So that is early pathogen detection for sepsis in the NICU. We have several other. I will let you guys visit our website, or please, by all means, take any of the information that we have out at our table. I went a little over. Pankaj, don't be mad. But I tried to go fast. I hope you heard me, and go drink your wine.
We started planning for this conference about 3 months ago. And we had this idea that, in the San Diego community, there are so many people doing very interesting work around AI. And actually, when we looked at our membership, there were so many people doing so many interesting things. We could not have all of you present today. So what we said was, let's get nominations. We'll pick the best. You'll see who we picked. We got about 100 nominations in 3 months. And we picked the best of the best. So I'll go through 16 of them in alphabetical order. We had 3 simple criteria. AI excellence. It could be business or technical. Some had both, but as long as you had one or the other. Number 2, real-world leadership. So if you're working on a research paper, what's the impact on real world? If you're working in a startup, what's the real world impact? And number 3, we said impact on greater San Diego area. Somebody gave me some tips. So we increased the San Diego area. The greater San Diego area includes Carlsbad, Irvine, Orange County, LA. But we also have to go north. So we decided to include San Francisco Bay Area, right? So that's our new name, our new chapter, the Greater San Diego area.
So we got some people from LA. So it's a SoCal LA chapter now is an extension of San Diego now, right?
Yes, yes. Okay, so I don't want to stand between you and wine. So here's what we are going to do. I will describe each person. The person comes here. I have 1 or 2 spicy questions for you. Then we have Jay as our president, and Ram. Ram, where are you? Yeah, I'm here. Okay. And then Ram as the conference chair. We will give a plaque, and Erica will take a quick picture. We'll do that very quickly, like 2 or 3 minutes per person, just in time for 5:45. Okay? All right. So the first person is Ashika Arasu. She is where is Becky? She's going to the #1 school, University of San Diego. I know you won't take it personally. She's the youngest person, if I can say so, on the of the 16 we picked. She's graduating in May 2025, right? And she started the company Qringer. She's the founder and CMO of Qringer. So Jay and Ram, if you want to take the seats, we got good seats for you. So Ashika, since you didn't get a chance to speak today, could you describe what is Qringer and why AI makes Qringer unique?
I would love to, but first I would like to start by thanking, the Thai community. It's truly an honor, and it's a prestigious award, and so I'm very grateful, especially to Mr. Bhagat, Mr. Kedia, Vinay, Dr. Prabhakar, for their support and mentorship for a young entrepreneur like myself. Like, finding the Thai community has been a huge support with very abundance of resources and connections, so thank you. And for the question, so Qringer is a mobile app. Just all you need is your smartphone and a QR code. The QR code would be placed at your front door, and all you have to do is take out your smartphone, scan the QR code, and it'll instantly connect you to the resident on the other end. So you can communicate with them from anywhere at any time. No hardware, and so that's where we're unique. Now with AI, we are able to identify the visitor's image and automatically alert you whether they're safe and protect you from future any crimes that would be in relative of you opening the door.
So Ashika, we have investors, mentors. If you have one or two wish, what is it? How can this community help you?
So right now we are product development phase as well as testing and gaining that traction. So definitely, seed funding as well as, getting IP is very important. And I know we just had an IP panel, so I'll be reaching out to them. But that's the main aspect, protecting our proprietary information and being able to scale. So a seasoned CEO who has gone through from the beginning to end, I would love to learn from you and make it happen. Thank you.
Very good. So Ashika will be here over reception. Please say hello. Let's take a quick picture because it means a lot to the winner to have a picture. Erika is our official photographer.
Oh. Yeah.
Thank you. AJ is founder and CEO of RiskOps. He has been a serial entrepreneur for 20-some years. You want to describe what is RiskOps?
Yeah, sure. As I mentioned, you're not sure how I'm getting this award, but thank you. I'll take it. So thank you so much. My name is Ajay Sarkar, serial entrepreneur. This is my third startup. First in the industry, AI native platform for risk management, next generation GRC. I don't want to go too deep, but we are bringing together governance, risk, and compliance all in one platform using AI native capability. Typically, as of today, it's targeted towards Fortune 1000 companies. Many of them are using it. And I am involved with TAI, as you know, Jai, for a long time. But thank you so much for bringing me back as a chartered member. I wish I have more time to spend here like these guys are doing. And thank you for pulling this together, Ram, and you, Pankaj, and everybody. Thank you so much.
AJ has been our sponsor. He was a sponsor, gold sponsor last year. He's going to be a gold sponsor for our healthcare conference. Thank you, AJ. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Take a quick picture.
Hey, Pankaj. Pankaj, mark the location, so you guys need to stand there.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Next up is Arasu Sanjeevi. He's working on AI, data, architecture at Solar Turbines. I want to ask him how he's using AI in Solar Turbines. But he just completed an exec program at Berkeley. And Becky, Becky left, yeah? And he did a Lean Six Sigma program at UCSD. So my question is, which one do you find better, UCSD or Berkeley?
Of course, Berkeley, bigger. We have a lot more experienced professors there and access to the resources there.
Good that Becky left.
But UCSD is during the lunchtime, I was talking to her, so she asked me to apply to that program. Okay. And they said they have funding for my research, so my research work will help there.
So can you tell us about Solar Turbines? And in the context of AI, how are you using AI at Solar Turbines?
Unfortunately, Solar Turbines not using AI yet. They're, because all big corporates are very want to be safe because these are data, oil and space, right? So our ChatGPT is all banned, so we can't use any of it. Only there is a section of team working on it. Still, based on they are trying to, as you said, the legal team. They are working heavily with the legal team because lots of data and proprietary company data. So not yet.
How would you like to use AI?
Speed up the process. Let me give an example. This is a quantitative class. It took 6 months for a professor to teach it with the data and how you're going to process it. With AI, it takes 15 minutes. The whole 6 months course now gone into 3 hours. Because the biggest tough is the data can be analyzed by AI, but interpretation is very critical. Because AI can give you information which you may not agree, because data interpretation is important. That's where the human is coming into picture. So you might have all the findings, results ready to go, but interpretation is important. That's where the human coming into. So.
Very good. Please give Arasu a big hand. And we are going to stand here. Okay. So number 3. Okay, the next person, she worked at Qualcomm. You know, I worked at Qualcomm for 10 years. She worked at NVIDIA. She worked at Shield AI. Have you guys heard about NVIDIA? Have you heard about Shield AI? Yes. The last valuation was $5.6 billion. And then she decided to go to this startup. Yeah, I got it. called IPOP. And IPOP, yeah, I got it. You want to present?
I thought she forgot to do it.
No, I got it. So she's head of AI at IPOP. Let's give her a big hand. Blythe Toval.
While you're doing that, she's our new member also.
Yes. So yeah, welcome. Welcome, Blythe. So I have a couple of questions for Blythe. Okay. All right. So Blythe, you left Qualcomm. You left NVIDIA. You left Shield AI. You went to IPOP. Tell us about the story.
The story of IPOP, or the story?
Why did you leave and why did you find IPOP?
For a variety of reasons. So when I left Qualcomm, Qualcomm was still a wireless company doing a little bit of AI. That has very much changed. They're now doing a lot more AI than wireless, but at the time, that was I had to talk to lawyers for months to use data sets, for example. So that's why I moved to NVIDIA. But at NVIDIA, we were working on autonomous driving, so it's a very exciting robotic application, so putting AI into NVIDIA, but also I wanted access to all those computers they have there. So a lot of resources there. Moved to Shield. They were solving another interesting robotic problem to have a quadcopter autonomously explore a building. So kind of like driving, but three-dimensional sort of problem. And then I actually took a brief sojourn at Saildrone. We're making autonomous sailboats. So I've now built robots for land, air, and sea, I believe. So after I did that, I figured I knew a few things about how to apply computer vision in a number of different contexts, and moved to IPOP, where we're making a self-service computer vision platform really targeted at companies or individuals that want to bring computer vision into their products but don't know where to get started. And importantly, we don't just provide models like many companies out there, we provide the whole solution, so the fully deployed pipeline. So you can come to our platform with just an idea, some images, tell it a little bit about what you're doing, and we will develop a full pipeline for you and give you an endpoint you can hit and build into your product within a couple hours.
So Blythe, if your vision comes alive 5 or 10 years from now, how would computer vision change everything we think about? And how would IPOP get us there?
I think you've heard a lot about that today from a lot of different folks. But I think really, somebody pointed out our brains. 30% of our processing in our brains is committed to visual processing. I think there's a lot of things you can understand about the world if you understand, if you use vision as a sensor. It's a very powerful sensor. So I think combining that in the perception, cognition, action loop, that full sensory motor loop, I think will enable truly embodied intelligence, and I'm very excited to see that happen.
Give Blythe a big hand. I have to say, all 16 are amazing, but the easiest decision we had was with Blythe, given everything you have done. So congratulations, Blythe.
Can I ask Blythe a question? I'll continue his question. You left Qualcomm, you left NVIDIA, and what else did you left? You left Shield. Where are you now? San Diego. Okay. So all right. Would you leave your present job and take my job? You don't have to pay any tax because you don't make any money.
Yeah. Let's take a picture with. All right. The next person, he's founder and CEO of an AI consulting firm. He just changed the name of the firm from Gambit Group to Prometheus. His mission is to, Did we lose it? His mission is to democratize AI and dedicate his life to helping all of us get smarter on AI. Please welcome Eddie Rivolo. Eddie, please come on. So Eddie, why the name change from Gambit Group to Prometheus?
I would say it was more about the gift giving, being able to go to large, heavy lengths to take something that's meant for everyone and bringing an affordability, viable accessibility to technology that also encompasses affordability. And you know, I look into Prometheus, the story goes up, steals fire, gives it away to mankind, and I decided that that's the journey that I want to take for the rest of my life.
Very
so
cool.
Hence Prometheus.
What's your wish, your request from this group?
To be honest, I am a humble student, and I will always be a humble student. And I love to learn. My relentless pursuit in helping push my own purpose, which is to impact and save lives. I'm humbly asking everyone here, even on the TV, that I would love to engage more in mentorship, to help tweak my company, to help veterans, to help small business owners that work 18 hours a day, to really, really provide affordability in AI and consultancy services. So to everyone and anyone that's willing to mentor me, guide me, so that we can all of us, make the change and close the gap. It is time to close the gap in education, in workforce, and our current trajectory in technology. That's what I ask about this community. And that's why I love this community. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you. Eddie. Stand here. Okay, number 6. You know, he has been in engineering roles, then he moved to product, and in December 2024, he became the CEO. So we have to give him a big hand for taking the first CEO job. He's here from the Bay Area. Let's welcome Gaurav Agarwal. Oh, you moved here? Yes. Okay, okay. Very cool. You have to update your LinkedIn.
I should, yes.
Yeah.
Being a CEO is tough. It takes a lot of time. So I'm going to get to LinkedIn soon.
You became CEO in December, right?
Yeah.
For the last 3 or 4 months, what has surprised you the most about the CEO role?
Well, so this is actually my second stint as a CEO, so not too many surprises over there, but you know, just different stages of company that I was the CEO of before, and the last 3 months I've just been fundraising, so it's been a roller coaster, and I'm just happy to get started with execution now, I would say.
So tell us about iNook.
Yeah. So iNook, I mean, a lot of the talks here has been about possibilities, but we've been at the forefront of bringing AI in healthcare. We are the first deep learning platform to get regulatory clearance of any sorts in healthcare. We look at the images of your retina, and we diagnose the vision and life-threatening diseases by analyzing those images. We are the most validated autonomous AI in healthcare today. We've impacted over 500,000 patients in over 30 countries around the world, so fully commercial product.
So Gaurav, tell us one personal thing we don't know about you.
Well, I don't think you know a lot of things about me, but where should I start? How much time we have, Pankaj? Now I'm a father of two beautiful young girls, and a few things I've done in my life. I've taken a big sabbatical. I've gone around 6 months around South America, just backpacking with my wife before the kids were born. And I used to be a certified paraglider, which I cannot do anymore. Yeah, now I barely get time to make a run to the supermarket, but yep, that's pretty much it. And first of all, thank you. Amazing conference. Yeah.
No, thank you. I just learned, by the way, that Gaurav is brother-in-law of our conference chair. Ram did not tell me before.
Cousin-in-law.
Oh, cousin-in-law. Okay, okay. Okay. Okay, next up, you know, this person worked at Abbott for 15 years. He was on stage before. CEO of Truvian, Mr. J. Srinivasan. So Jay, today we heard so much about AI will disrupt healthcare, and I'm still reeling from Venu's presentation. But maybe you want to talk about specifically Truvian, how you think about AI at Truvian, and if your vision comes alive 10 years from now, how will it benefit us all?
That's great. So thanks a lot, Pankaj. I would say, I'll just clarify one thing. It's not if it comes alive, when it comes alive, for sure, at least for the sake of everyone around me, including myself. So Truvian, as I told you, is in blood testing. So we're delivering on the thesis that Theranos had promised, but couldn't deliver, and we're going to obviously get in front of the FDA shortly. We're actually submitting next week. The whole thing about healthcare for me is about creating I've always said that big data exists because good data doesn't. I truly believe that Truvian has the opportunity to really create the world's cleanest longitudinal baseline of blood data. And so we believe, and that was a presentation that I'll save for a future conference, where we will bring not just blood data together, but with wearable and other information to really create that longitudinal ability to tell and predict chronic disease. Because at the end of the day, that's the thesis on which I said we'll be at the end of every street. And we use AI for everything in our product. Our product, is built around AI, not just in how we designed our consumables and things like that, but also how we actually detect for the different tests we have.
Very cool.
Yeah, Jay and I had lunch last year. We were talking. We got the same name Jay, but he changed it from JAI to JAY. Do you regret today losing your JAI branding?
So I'll clarify that for the benefit of everyone. So my didn't try it, but my father's misspelled my name, by the way, very early in my life to a JAI, so I should have stayed with JAI.
Yeah, please. Next person started working before I was born. He worked on MS-DOS. That's a joke. Did we start the conference with a strong keynote, or did we start the conference with a strong keynote? Amazing, right? Very strong keynote. And then Naresh topped it up. I didn't want to say it in front of Kevin. But Naresh, when I was writing this, I'm like, senior partner, senior fellow, customer, chief customer officer, chief information officer, chief technology officer.
Chief therapy officer.
Chief therapy officer. How can you have so many titles at the same company?
Well, it's all about helping in driving change. So as a former CIO and from a compliance perspective, we heard from the A&D side. So it's just trying to help grow that, and especially with the whole leveraging of AI, we were one of the first companies to sign up for Copilot with Microsoft, very early stages, but also had to make sure that all our data was secure. And anything that was like HR related was segregated out, so we can leverage the technology to help our internal processes and streamline and really become more efficient, but also help our clients move forward as well. So that's what it's about.
Very good. Give Naresh a big hand. Okay, I'm going to skip the next one. I'll skip this one. I'll come back. Naresh, I'll come back. Everybody knows you. No, I want to bring Nasiha. So Nasiha is Director of Client Success in the legal profession. You heard Nasiha speak on the last panel. Nasiha, please come on. Nasiha went from Goldman Sachs to Legalese. Yeah, you want to talk about the transition?
Yeah, from finance to legal. I don't know which one's more boring. No, just kidding. But I think I started off with my career with Goldman Sachs, which was an amazing first company to start your career with. The challenges finance industry has is immense and it's exciting. But I think it's even more satisfying to work in the legal industry. Attorneys are not as complex as you guys think they are. They just start off always by answering, it depends. So you just need to be aware of that. But I think it's been a fascinating transition from finance to legal and not a transaction, sorry.
Yeah, I hope the finance guys don't take offense that legal is better than finance. Yes, please. Okay, I'm watching time. Natraj. He's PhD in genetics. Where is Natraj? Yes. 25 years doing molecular research. By the way, Natraj has been part of our organizing team, so he should get double bonus. Yes? Yeah, Natraj, tell us about Ligran Bio, your startup.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing Ligran Bio for this exceptional award. Ligran Bio, our mission is basically to protect the human intelligence, to enhance the artificial intelligence later. The reason is basically why I'm talking about human intelligence is Alzheimer's is going to hit more than a COVID-19 in future. And according to the statistical data, the younger generations at the age of 19 and 35 to 45 are going to affect with Alzheimer's, and the death rate will be very high by 2060 with 140 million people. So according to the WHO and NIH data, this is the recent data. So in order to treat therapy of this Alzheimer's, we are developing a molecular glues, a traditional drug molecules that can destroy the harmful proteins linked to Alzheimer's. So this is our mission, and this is not a simple mission for us. And myself and my team cannot alone do this. We need a funding for this. And if anybody is interested in mission-based investors, please come forward. Definitely, we'll show the therapy of Alzheimer's in the next 5 years using artificial intelligence to protect the human intelligence and save the younger generations for tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Boy, these folks have such impressive resume. So this person, he worked at AT&T, then worked at Ericsson, then worked at Qualcomm for 12 years. And Prakash said, you know, I've had enough of this. I want to be an industry analyst. So he's one of the most renowned wireless analysts. Please welcome Prakash Sangam. We had him doing the last panel. By the way, he's one of our newest charter members. One question, Prakash. AI and wireless. Can you debunk how we should think about AI and wireless coming together?
Sure. Actually, I did a report on it. It's on my side, right? So I think actually AI in networks in telecom was much before it was called AI. People in wireless might know SON, self-organizing network, which was kind of static AI. So actually, I think one of the charts in the morning showed telecom is one of the highest adoption of AI, highest adoption of AI. I mean, it could be like, data crunching, marketing operations and network operations that operators spend tons of money on, that they can save quite a lot. It's already operational, right? It's not just a theory. And going forward, even wireless link, connecting your phone to the tower, which is one of the most difficult technologies, if you will, can be improved on in terms of performance using AI. So yeah, a lot of applications.
I know Prakash as the one covering Qualcomm versus ARM, the lawsuit. So I've been reading his reports. You all should too as well. Please. So this next one, I had a really difficult time. This person worked at Motorola for 20 years, worked at TiVo. You guys know TiVo? Yes? Erica, do you know TiVo? No, it's before your time. He's on, I don't know, 6, 8, 10, 12 boards. He's on public boards, private boards. Maybe Naresh Lachmandas, maybe Raghu started working before you were born. It's a joke. So Raghu, you've had a fascinating career.
Why do you say has? Had.
You have been having a fascinating career. You know, we heard so much about AI today. What are the one or two things we should be careful about when we go home about AI?
Yeah, I think, you know, they talk about the point of singularity. You know, when, you know, AI and human intelligence, you know, sort of merge, and it becomes, you know, artificial general intelligence. And at that time, there's the threat that you might lose control over what you build. And I think that's one of the things that I would worry about.
Yeah. How can you help this group?
You know, I'm reminded of a saying by President Kennedy, ask not what your community can do for you, ask what you can do for your community. And I've reached that stage in my life when I've got to give back, and that's what I intend to do. If anybody, if I can be of use to anybody in this, you know, room, anybody needs help, as you mentioned, I've been on 8 public company boards. I've been the chief executive of 3 public companies, and I'd be glad to share my expertise, you know, or experiences, you know, with anybody who needs that.
Actually, what you asked him, he's already done it. Raghu and I had lunch, a month ago, a month and a half ago, and telling him about the AI conference, and we are looking for a sponsor. He said, Raghu said, you know, I'd like to help. He's our gold sponsor for the conference. Please give him a big hand.
Okay, the next person. Because of him, we had to change the definition of Greater San Diego area. So he has been in IT for 25 years. He works at Wells Fargo. I have lots of questions for him. He's implementing AI at Wells Fargo. Srinivas, where are you? There you are. So tell us, in a bank context, I bank with Bank of America.
Okay.
Convince us that I should change my banking to Wells Fargo.
Absolutely. That's a very good question. So what we feel the Gen AI right now is not an evolution, but we are thinking it's a revolution right now. So we are thinking it a slogan like, you know, we are in the 5th industrial revolution right now. And looking at the security of the data, how the data is getting leaked. You name it as a financial or, because we represent an API division in Wells Fargo, and there's a lot of APIs which generate and people consume and people produce it, and there's a lot of exchange of data is there. There's a PII data pertaining to that. So now we are taking a lot of measures of how we can secure the data using the technology, the AI technology, and also how we can try to bring back the customers who already left. Maybe you were one of the customer of Wells Fargo before, now we moved to Bank of America, come back to us. Now you will see the difference. And getting this technology, what we had, recently we had a new Gen AI Council. under our able leadership of Bridget, who has come as a head of technology. And we also had Tracy Kerens, who is also leading the Gen AI Council. And a lot of new innovative things that we are trying to plan in spanning of governance, security, and we talk about loan approvals, customer service. A lot of new things have evolved, like using the agentic AIs, agentic models, and lot of new things we are trying to come, and that's what we welcome. Any new ideas that we can put to our Gen AI Council, and we can invite you for a kind of presentation. If you're having a good product for the banking and financial industry, welcome you. Please reach out to me on my LinkedIn, where you can contact me, where I can hook it up with the right channels in the at Wells Fargo.
Thank you, thank you. Please. Anita is calling. She's like, why are you taking away Silicon Valley members? Okay. Next up is Sujit Day. So Sujit committed to sponsor the next conference. Where are you, Sujit? Sujit sponsored this one also. So you heard from Sujit about risk ops AI. What you did not hear about is Sujit has been at UCSD teaching, researching. I went to Qualcomm. So Paul Jacobs, Irvin Jacobs, they are people I respect. And Sujit has been the Jacobs Endowment Chair at UCSD. So Sujit, what do you like better, risk ops or UCSD? Can you turn off the camera, because you didn't want to be on the record?
Thank you, Pankaj. No, these are two different experiences. First of all, thanks, and this was a really, really great event. I really, really enjoyed and appreciate it. Thank you. And because I'm so used to various kinds of academic conferences, of course, CTI and those kind of forums, but this was really good. So it's not a trick question, it's a real question. When you are a lifelong researcher and you are developing technologies, and one of the things I've really enjoyed doing is taking technologies out, because what's the use of developing technologies if you're not taking them out? So this is my fourth startup, and I just enjoy doing that. What happens is then it becomes like a double responsibility. One is a responsibility for your PhD students, the centers and institutes, like I had the Institute for Global Entrepreneurship. So all that work, and then you have to do the company work. But while sometimes it feels like a lot of heavy lifting, but this one has been a real pleasure. I'm very, very passionate about Cipra.ai, because when we see patients benefiting, there's no other fulfillment than that. So I would say, to answer your question, it was long-winded, that the Cipra work that we are doing, especially when we are serving underserved population, be it in San Diego County or be it in India, that is a different kind of fulfillment.
Very good. The IGE we talked about is under Sujit's management. So Sujit, please. So did you guys like the NVIDIA keynote today? Yeah, give a big hand for NVIDIA. So Naresh was the past president, but then I looked at his LinkedIn. Let me read it for you. IBM, AT&T, ST Micro, Nokia, Amdocs, Interdigital, CXAI. Where have you not worked, Naresh? Please, give Naresh a big hand. Naresh needs no introduction. Naresh, while I have you, what is your advice to maybe the younger side of the audience on career, on TIE, on whatever?
I think my advice to folks, be passionate, believe in what you do, and be positive, seek inputs, and be open.
So the last award goes to Ram. Now, Ram was not involved in the selection. Jay and I decided to nominate Ram and tell him like only a couple days ago. But has this been a good conference? So, you know, I worked maybe 2 hours a week. Jay worked maybe 40 hours a week. Ram worked 100 hours a week to make this possible. And of course, lots of people like Vinay. So let's give Ram the award.
Now you sit down.
I sit down?
No, you just sit down. Yeah, you've been talking too much. You have nothing to do with it. It's between Ram and I. And, you know, I could go through your bio, but no need to do that. Everybody knows you. You know, he's, by the way, the biggest thing, he was selected recently 21 over 21, top 21 over 21 by Bloomberg. AI innovator CXOs. And it's my honor. And by the way, he has 3 decades of experience in the AI sector. And he's a speaker. You know, he speaks all over the country. You know, guess how many times he spoke last year? How many conferences he spoke last year? In 1 year, 67. He's got a lot of airline flyer points. Maybe you can give us some free tickets. It's my honor to present TIE San Diego Lifetime AI Innovation Award to Pankaj Kedia.
This is Jay's way of saying I'm getting old.
Actually, here. Now, one more item. Would all the AI committee members please come here for a picture?
We feel special. Come with the cameras. Thank you, everyone. Hey guys, bad things happen when you drink. So before you drink, can everybody come to the front? We'll take a big group picture. Please come forward. Please come, please. Yes.
It came back to life. Yay! Loves the party.
It's wine time. Hey, did everybody have fun? Yeah! Let's go have the drink.